What's the good word, Josh? Your boy DKB here. So, one of my favorite New York Jets of all time, running back Bilal Powell, he had a recent interview and he highlighted a lot of the flaws that we've seen within this New York Jets team last year. He also had some thoughts about kind of the, high level wise, the fix going forward, which is pretty obvious for everybody, but still we'll kind of touch base on it. But I came away from this short clip, which I'll put in the description for you guys to check out, but I walked away from it kind of having a bit of a new perspective on everything that's occurred since that massive bomb of an article from The Athletic dropped on the New York Jets. So let's go ahead and dive into some of the pieces here, right? Now, the quote, which was the main quote from this, I think the video is about 1 minute and 50 seconds. This is what I took away that summed up the 2023 year pretty effectively, right? Now, slightly paraphrasing here just because there was some stuttering and stammering, but here's effectively what he said. Almost seems like the organization went back to what they know. That was undisciplined football, sources getting out, guys getting on social media, no kind of accountability, right? I think accountability was really the main thing that you've seen as a hidden theme throughout that Athletic article, right? Robert Saleh not taking accountability for his own record performance, right? And ability to find and develop an offensive coaching staff, and then in respect of that, field a great balanced product on the field. It's been heavily schemed, or it's been heavily the roster construction has been heavily in favor of the defense, right? And that's not something that's necessarily his fault per se, because we have tried to pour a lot of resources into the offense, but it is his job to make sure that he's getting the most out of that talent. And I think in a lot of cases, we can say that if we had a different offensive coordinator, we feel like the results would be different, which speaks volumes to me, right? It's no longer a talent level. It is a coaching and execution, and the players responding to the coaching staff kind of problem here. He touches on the social media here, right? Obviously, we've had, the shots from Breece Hall, Garrett Wilson. You have Sauce Gardner kind of tweeting little bits of things out. I'm sure there's another handful of players that we would have had some concerns with. And then, of course, the undisciplined football. I seen an article a couple weeks back where we were, I think, the third or fourth highest penalized team in terms of dollar amount, not necessarily penalties on the season, but I think we were also still top 5 in penalties for the 2023 season off the top of my head. So, that matches. The eyeball test definitely matches up with what's happening on the field from a statistical standpoint. It's utterly embarrassing, right? We can't get things right on the field. We can't get things right off the field. And then on top of it, you have high-ranking members in the coaching staff and front office that are running a complete clown show once again, which I thought, again, I've highlighted this a couple of times. I really thought we were getting away from this, but we're starting to see it come back pretty heavily. And I would imagine that I think we'll survive under Aaron Rodgers if he's healthy and things don't look elite. But if Aaron Rodgers was to go down again and we start performing poorly on offense, I think we're going to be in a world of hurt, right? Players might start pulling off Antonio Brown's left and right and just walking off the field and saying, I'm done, right? I will sit out for the year. You can trade me, do whatever it is you want to do, right? We might really start seeing some kind of mass exodus of talent. But to get back into some of this stuff. So that was the main quote, right? Some of the main takeaways from there. But he did touch on Aaron Rodgers. He mentioned that the New York Jets can't put all of our eggs into the Aaron Rodgers basket once again, and that's really what we relied on in 2023. He specifically called out the fact that it seemed like Aaron Rodgers was supposed to come in and be the guy that fixed everything, right? You're talking about one of the greatest football players, not just at his position, but in general to ever touch an NFL field. That is a lot to ask. I don't know about the inner workings of teams that have had Tom Brady or Peyton Manning or any of the other recent or late great quarterbacks we've ever had, but I can't imagine that they've been pressured or saddled with that level of responsibility to get things fixed, right? Also, that lets me know, right then and there as a fan, my franchise isn't up there in terms of knowing how to run a successful team. Because why is the player who, in general, you don't really want to hear a whole lot from, right? You just want them to go out there, sling the football, get us a lot of W's, get us some rings. You don't want to hear about his political thoughts. And this just doesn't pertain to Aaron Rodgers, but just in general, right? What we've seen throughout the decades and years. You don't really want to hear anything outside of football from them, and you don't want them even to a point heavily being involved in what's happening in the front office, right? You had Lamar Jackson that wasn't being listened to in terms of coaching options he would have liked. Aaron Rodgers, the type of players that he wanted coming in during his Packers tenure, and everything in and up between, right, with various other quarterbacks once they've kind of gotten to that above average elite level. So it's crazy to me to think that, and I share the same sentiment, that really was the case, right? Come in, fix what we're doing wrong. Let us, I have no problem sharing the insight of what you've seen successfully done with the Packers. But that didn't seem to be the case. They wanted him to be the legend on the field. They wanted him to be the legend in the coaching room. They wanted him to be the legend in the front office, right? So we have to get away from that. Let that man focus on the field, even if you want to go as far as calling him like a on-field coach, which isn't anything new per se. But we literally kind of turned him into a coach during the off season as well. So much so that, as we touched on in part of the article, it seemed like a lot of coaches kind of rested on their laurels there for a while. So very disappointing. He also touched on the fact that the defense isn't the problem, right? We have 3 defensive Pro Bowlers on that side, couple all pros going on between first and second team. That isn't the problem whatsoever, but it also doesn't matter because it's not equating to significant wins, right? The defense, at their best, we've seen in back-to-back years now, has willed us to 7 wins. It's been maybe 1 or 2 games in the last season where any of our various 4 starting quarterbacks has led the charge to get those wins, right? It's been on the back of the defense and the offense doing just enough. So 7 wins is essentially the ceiling, if you want to look at it, for this New York Jets defense with the mass amount of elite talent that we've been able to assemble and develop here. And I agree, ultimately it doesn't matter, right? We can't get into the playoffs with that, and it's not going to take us deep into the playoffs with it. So the flip side to that, though, was that he felt the easiest problem to fix, is that he felt this was an easy problem for the New York Jets to fix, because that means you can essentially turn the majority of your attention, as a lot of us have been feeling, to the offense to make sure that you're correcting, fixing, and being able to have the same kind of turnaround that we've seen with our defense. Remember, year 1, it wasn't great. We wanted to fire Salo on the spot, and then we started seeing, the maturity of a lot of these guys and kind of what the plan and execution looked like there. After that, it wasn't really anything deep, right? He highlighted we obviously need to pour a ton of resources into the offensive line, as that was the major reason for a lack of success with anybody else that wasn't Aaron Rodgers. And a lot of people want us to go out there and, get a great number 1, number 2 type wide receiver. I would... if it's me personally, I'm focusing on the offensive line. I remember we brought on, I can't remember his name off the top of my head right now, but we brought Dennis Kelly. I don't think that's it. It was a former New York Jets scout, though. We brought him on, and I remember a couple people trying to clown him in the chat when he was saying that we need to literally spend and invest every draft pick from last year's class in the offensive line. Everything else will figure itself out from there. A lot of people ended up sharing his sentiments since. So I'm just saying, I wouldn't be surprised if that's kind of a similar plan that we need to follow here. Plus, it just happens to work out that this draft class is very, very deep at the offensive line, specifically more so tackle, but also the wide receiver position for us. So we'll see what happens. But ultimately, let me know what you guys think about Bilal Powell and kind of how he's breaking down things with the Jets here. I'll catch you guys again. Peace.